Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today's all about controlling ants in your garden. I'm going to show you several examples of really ant nests, infestations that were in my garden back in June. And this is the area that I really focused on. And you can see all this great growth now. I've been able to kill the ants off using a simple borax bait. This is borax laundry detergent, which is sodium borate or sodium tetraborate. Sodium tetraborate is really a combination of sodium, oxygen, and boron. It's naturally occurring, it is organic. People can make it too, that doesn't make it inorganic. But it is pretty safe. You know, it's something that you shouldn't ingest, of course. But we use this in our laundry. We've been using it since really, I think it was discovered in 1888. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to make two simple baits. One with sugar on the left, one with jello or protein, gelatin in the right. Some ants eat sugar, some ants eat protein, some ants eat both. But this is a really effective way to manage ants in a garden, and I will go through the entire recipe for you. Now, because I shot this earlier, you're going to hear me repeat the introduction, but just bear with me, because you're going to get to see the ants, how I find them in my garden, and how I really treat them. Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today's quick video is, how do you deal with ants in the garden? Ants aren't either good or bad. They become bad when they start damaging your crops. And I've been digging around my bed, planting a lot of the warm weather crops, and I don't know if you can see in there, but there are hundreds of tiny brown black ants. These type of ants cause a problem in my garden. They live in the top several inches of the soil. They like living right along the boards of my raised beds. They are all over the place, and what they do is, I'm not sure if they're eating the roots of the plants, but they dig through the soil, they change the soil, they damage the root systems of the plants, maybe they eat some of it. Whatever it is, it's a problem. So I'm going to show you a ant solution made from borax and sugar. It's really simple, it's effective for any kind of ant that eats sugar. Let me show you some other areas, and again, hopefully you can see them. These guys do bite because they're biting me right now. You know, and a couple of ants, not an issue, but they are all trenched all along my bed, all through here. You can see more over here. If I dig into here, they all pop up. I mean, that is just too many. In the same raised bed on the other side, there are a bunch of these large brown ants, all colonized down in there. I've dug this out several times trying to disturb them. It doesn't really seem to help. One species of ant here, another one on the other side. They're not fighting, they're not taking care of each other. So the borax bait is going to be put down here. A lot of people wonder what kind of damage ants cause. Here's another colony that I just dug up. This is in another bed. And I saw this one here last week. The peas all in this area, which aren't many, have all died back. And I'm going to show you what the pea plants should look like. All the ants were running around through here. I didn't treat them at that point. The peas were gone, so I didn't really pay much mind to it. You can treat these with the borax bait. I believe it's sodium tetraborate. I'll get the right name down as I'm making the recipe. These guys will eat that. It will kill them off. But they've done a lot of damage, and I really have to stay up on finding these colonies. With the milder winters here in Maryland, there's just ants everywhere. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, look at that. This is what the pea should look like, FYI. Planted in the same way along the edge of one of my framed beds, and the peas here are doing beautifully. Again, they were planted at the exact same time in a very similar place. This is the area where the peas were damaged by the ants that were all right down there in that corner. It takes about really a couple of days, but let's just say 5 to 7 days to kill the ants off. They take the sugar back to their nest, everybody eats it. The boron, the sodium tetraborate, messes up the nervous system of the ants. They die off, they get paralyzed, they can't move. I think they dehydrate. Anyway, it's really, really effective. It's been used for really forever. And I can't say anything's 100% effective, but these baits are really close to being 100% effective for ants. The mix is pretty straightforward. It's 1 part borax or sodium tetraborate to 3 or 4 parts sugar. I'll show you how to make it, but really 1 tablespoon of the borax, 3 or 4 tablespoons of the sugar. You add some water, make a syrup, put it in a mason jar, poke some holes in it, drop the jars where the ants are, and it takes care of the problem. The recipe is pretty simple, and you can vary it slightly. It doesn't really matter to be exact with this. It's going to be 1 part, in this case 1 tablespoon of borax, and then 3 or 4 parts sugar. I use 4 parts sugar. Some people say you don't need that much. Sometimes people use 2 tablespoons of borax to 4 parts sugar, but you get the idea. 1 tablespoon of borax, 3 or 4 tablespoons of sugar. Can go into any size mason jar. If the ants are going to eat it, they're going to eat it very quickly in that first day. 3 tablespoons, 4 tablespoons of sugar goes a long way, so you may be able to reuse it. And you can make less if you want to. So in a mason jar or any kind of repurposed jar, 1 tablespoon of the borax, 3 or 4 tablespoons of sugar, and this is the simplified easy version. Mix it all in there. You want to get in, use a spoon, but I forgot one, just mix it through. Once you add water, this will help. Add in 1 tablespoon of water, and that's not quite enough, so we're going to add in the 2nd tablespoon. And I'm going to step over here actually and grab something to mix it with, and then you just want to mix it through. You want to mix the borax and the sugar together. The borax is going to dissolve. The sugar doesn't have to dissolve all the way, but the borax will dissolve quickly. And you just want to get the borax throughout the sugar. This is, a nice syrup. You can use less water if you want it to be a little bit thicker, but this will dry slowly over time. The ants will be able to get to it. And again, it is plenty of bait. You could, put this into 2 jars if you want, even 3 jars. I mean, look how much that makes. So you can put this through 3 jars. One thing I do recommend to make this more pet friendly is to poke some holes into the lid. And you want to flip the lid over. I use a knife, poke some holes in it, twist the knife a little bit to make sure the holes are big enough for the ants to get through. It does leave the sharp edges here. This way dogs or pets won't lick it. I don't know how much borax they could eat, but you want to kind of not have them do that. It is pet safe. This is even more of a pet safe jar now. In glass, they can't eat it. The dogs, pets, cats can't get to it. Animals can't get to it, but the ants will be able to crawl in here. That's all you do. If you want to keep a few of these, this dries out a little bit, or you don't use it till next year, just add some water. It'll soften up, and these baits are ready to go. That was for sugar-eating ants. Most of them eat sugar. Some ants prefer proteins. I can't tell the difference. You could use Jello instead of 3 or 4 tablespoons of sugar. Use 3 or 4 tablespoons of Jello. That has gelatin in it. Or you could make your sugar bait like this. You could just buy gelatin packets and put in a tablespoon of gelatin in there. This way it will ensure, the protein will ensure that the ants, if they're protein-eating ants, they will eat this. But most of the time they're sugar-eating ants. All right, let me show you how I would put these out in the garden. There are so many different kinds of ants, I can't identify them all, but they're not all good for the garden. So here's a nest I just disturbed. Looks like a good eye, you can see wings, some sort of flying ants. Now the ants in here, maybe they directly harm the plants, maybe it's indirect, but I know that I had a whole row of mustard greens in here that got killed off by ants. The ants may be in there eating the roots, maybe tunneling, just damaging the roots in some capacity. I don't want all these ants around. I find most of my ant colonies when I'm weeding, you see some movement, I have a shovel, dig it up. So what I'd like to do is first just disturb the nest, and I'll let this go for 24 hours, but I will be putting down the borax ant bait to just get rid of this colony. This is the first area I showed you in the video. So the first set of ants were all down there, and they're gone. The bigger ants, the colony was tucked right into that corner, and that was a good, 6 weeks ago. You can see how beautifully the plants are doing now. Maybe it was 8 weeks ago. Tomatoes look great. Nothing's here ant-wise in the way of a colony. I do see ants occasionally. Like I have some ants, just FYI, that have some nests like right in the center of the path. I don't worry about those ants. I worry about the ones that really form the colonies along my beds. So first thing you want to do is dig in there, see if you can disturb them, maybe they go away. If not, just use the baits that you made. And I just basically tuck a jar in just like that, put it on its side. You can sprinkle some sugar in front of it if you just want to get the ants to the jar, or probably easier done, just pour out some of the syrup right in front of there, and the ants will collect, crawl in, eat, take everything back to their nest. This is what we just made today, and remember, that's just a whole lot in there. So there's an ant on there already. you can, spread this out through several jars, so a little bit goes a really long way. Just wanted to show you a close-up of how I set it up. Drip some of the syrup out right onto the earth. The ants are going to show up really within 30 minutes, very, very quickly. You don't need both there. That's just there for a little bit of color. But just drop one on its side, drip out some syrup. The ants will gather in there, take it back to the nest, and you're good to go. This is the second area where there was a nice colony right in here, right in this corner. It actually damaged my pea plants and they didn't really grow well right there. And I would just drop a jar down just like that. Just want to clarify too, the protein is not a must, and most of the time it's just going to be, ants that eat sugar. So I would start with that. If you notice after a week the colony is still around, then you probably have ants that, enjoy protein, and you could just mix some gelatin right into the mix you already have, or you can make another batch. You saw how quickly and easily it was to make. And again, you get the borax in the laundry section of most grocery stores, or you can order it online. The other thing is maybe you don't have time or you don't want to make this. A lot of the baits that you can buy at the stores, pre-made, are made from sodium tetraborate. So they're safe. They're very similar to this. I can't guarantee 100% safety, but read the instruction or read the ingredients, and most of those baits are sodium tetraborate or sodium borate. You can buy those and you can just tuck them into the corners of your beds and they're going to work the same way. I will link some of those products to the video. This is the third area where my mustard greens were actually killed out with ants that were right along here, and I have cantaloupe growing now. It's doing really well. I did come in and look, and you want to go back to the nest. This has been 6 weeks. When I dig down in there, there are actually a couple of ants crawling around there. Now they just might be traveling around, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my new bait. There's one right in there by my finger. No, it's going to be hard to see. So I'm going to just take my new bait and I'm just going to sit it right there. Any ants that are kind of recolonizing or coming to this area will crawl in there, they'll take it back to their nest, everything will be fine. Actually, I'm going to cover this back up. I'm still going to plant in there now. There weren't a ton of ants like you saw in the previous video that showed this area, but just drop the bait down. It's good for days and even weeks. It's going to stay moist enough. If it becomes too crystallized or you're worried about it, just add some water. Very, very effective. It's worked just about every time I've ever used it. In fact, I can't remember a time that this borax bait has failed. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 750,000 subscribers, so I really do appreciate the help. And please follow me. I'll show you how to grow an entire garden, tend it, plant it, take care of pests and problems, save a little bit of money, and hopefully have some fun. Thanks so much for watching.